A doctor gives you a medicine, not a giant hammer, not a chemical carpet bomb, not a medieval catapult loaded with side effects. A tiny courier, a microscopic smuggler, a molecular Uber driver carrying cargo through the bloodstream, dodging immune patrols, slipping through biological checkpoints, and delivering instructions or drugs where they matter most. That is the dream of targeted drug delivery. And unlike many scientific dreams that live forever in PowerPoint slides and grant proposals, this one is already real. Lipid nanoparticles are already used in approved medicines, and they were a core delivery system behind mRNA COVID-19 vaccines. So today, we're going into the rabbit hole of one of the most important invisible technologies in modern medicine. Because if vaccines were the headline, nanoparticles were the getaway car. Let's start with the oldest problem in medicine. For centuries, medicine had one recurring question. How do you kill the disease without killing the patient? That sounds obvious, but for most of human history, treatment was less precision engineering and more, good luck, everybody. Early drugs often hit the body like an angry landlord, collecting from every tissue, whether it owed rent or not. Then came a seductive idea. What if treatment could act like a magic bullet? Something that hits the target and spares the rest. That phrase, magic bullet, is strongly associated with Paul Ehrlich, who helped popularize the concept of selective therapy. Hit the invader, spare the host. And that dream never really left medicine. It just got smaller, much smaller. So small that now the bullet may be measured in nanometers. That's billions of a meter, the scale where biology gets weird, chemistry gets bossy, and your immune system becomes a nosy airport security officer. Now, what does targeted actually mean? Let's clean up a common misunderstanding. When people hear targeted drug delivery, they imagine a tiny robotic missile with Wi-Fi, GPS, and a personal grudge against tumors. That is not what most nanoparticle delivery systems are, at least not yet. In practice, targeted usually means one or more of the following: helping a fragile drug survive the trip through the body, improving where it accumulates, improving how cells absorb it, reducing exposure to tissues you don't want to hit, or controlling when and how the cargo gets released. So this is less sniper rifle and more smarter logistics. And logistics, ask any war general or any e-commerce executive, decides victory. Because you can have the world's greatest payload, but if it never reaches the right address, you didn't invent a cure. You invented expensive disappointment. That has been one of the central obstacles in modern therapeutics. Many powerful molecules are either unstable, poorly soluble, rapidly cleared, unable to cross cell membranes, or too toxic when spread everywhere. In other words, medicine often had excellent weapons and terrible delivery. So scientists built vehicles. Enter nanoparticles. A nanoparticle is exactly what it sounds like. A tiny particle engineered to carry something useful. That cargo might be a traditional drug, RNA, DNA, proteins, imaging agents, or combinations of all of them. Think of the nanoparticle as a suitcase. Sometimes it's a capsule. Sometimes it's a bubble. Sometimes it's more like a greasy molecular onion, held together by chemistry and hope. And among the most important versions are lipid nanoparticles, LNPs. Lipid means fat-like molecules, which is fitting because your cells are wrapped in lipid membranes. So instead of trying to deliver delicate cargo inside a blunt metal box, scientists use structures built from materials biology already understands. That's the genius. You don't fight life with a wrench. when a key will do. LNPs are especially useful for nucleic acid cargo, like siRNA and mRNA, because these molecules are fragile and negatively charged, which makes delivery into cells difficult. So LNP formulations are designed to protect the cargo, help it circulate, and promote uptake into cells. Or translated into normal human language, RNA is like a priceless note written on tissue paper in a hurricane. You do not hand that to the bloodstream naked and expect good things. You wrap it, you shield it, you sneak it past the bouncers. Now, here's the part most people don't realize. Nanomedicine wasn't born during COVID. It had already been saving patients for decades. Long before the COVID era made lipid nanoparticles famous, nanomedicine had already reached hospitals. A landmark example is Doxil, often described as the first FDA-approved nano drug, approved in 1995. It used a pegylated liposomal formulation of doxorubicin to change how the drug circulated and how it behaved compared to free drug. And that mattered for one huge reason. You don't always need a brand new drug to improve outcomes. Sometimes, changing the delivery system changes the game. Same warrior, better armor, better horse, better route. That principle opened a major door in pharmacology. Delivery itself is a therapeutic strategy. And this is one of those truths that applies far beyond medicine. In business, raw power is overrated. Distribution decides destiny. A brilliant message with bad delivery dies in silence. A decent message with perfect delivery conquers empires. Medicine learned the same lesson at nanoscale. Now, let's move into the modern era, where delivery stopped being helpful and started becoming the key to entirely new classes of therapy. Then came the major milestone, ONPATTRO, also known as patisiran. ONPATTRO contains patisiran, a double-stranded small interfering RNA formulated as a lipid complex for delivery to hepatocytes, liver cells. It was approved in 2018 and is widely described as the first FDA-approved LNP-formulated siRNA medicine. That sentence is easy to read and easy to underestimate. So let me translate it. This wasn't just, here is a drug. This was, here is a gene-silencing therapy wrapped in a lipid delivery system engineered to reach the right cells to reduce production of a harmful protein. That is a huge leap, because RNA therapies are powerful in theory, but notoriously difficult in practice. They degrade, they struggle to enter cells, they need help. Patisiran proved something important. If you solve the delivery problem, entirely new categories of medicine become practical. That's one of the hidden laws of innovation. A technology does not become revolutionary when it is invented. It becomes revolutionary when it becomes deliverable. Plenty of scientific ideas die as beautiful prisoners right in the lab. Nanoparticles helped unlock the prison door. Now, it seemed as if the world met nanoparticles all at once. And then came the pandemic. Suddenly, millions of people who had never heard the phrase lipid nanoparticle were receiving products built on them. The mRNA in COVID-19 vaccines was formulated in lipid particles, so the mRNA could be delivered into cells, so the antigen could be expressed, so the immune system could respond. That one line is the quiet hero of the entire platform, because mRNA by itself is not the kind of molecule that thrives in the wild. It's fragile, it's easily degraded. It does not casually stroll into cells like it owns the place. So the LNP does several crucial jobs. It protects the mRNA. It packages it into a deliverable form. It helps the payload enter cells. and it enables the body to temporarily produce the encoded protein, the training dummy that teaches the immune system what to recognize. In other words, the mRNA was the instruction manual, the LNP was the envelope, the armored truck, and the doorman. In other words, without a workable delivery system, the whole concept struggles. And that's why, to scientists, this wasn't just a vaccine story. It was a delivery story, a platform story, a threshold story. Because once delivery technology crosses a threshold, it multiplies possibilities. Now, how do these tiny couriers actually work? Let's step inside the machine. Act 6. How lipid nanoparticles work. Lipid nanoparticles are not just blobs of fat with ambition. They're carefully engineered systems. They're often described as built from 4 major functional components: an ionizable lipid, helper lipids, cholesterol, and a PEG lipid. Let's decode that without turning this into a chemistry class trauma. 1. Ionizable lipid. This is one of the stars of the show. It helps bind and package the genetic cargo during formulation. Then, under the right conditions, it helps the payload escape into the cell after uptake. This is the smuggler with lock-picking skills. 2. Helper lipids. These support structure and membrane behavior. Think of them as the crew making sure the getaway vehicle doesn't fall apart at the first corner. 3. Cholesterol. Yes, cholesterol, the molecule with the terrible publicist. Here, it helps with stability and structure. Even in medicine, cholesterol found a management role. 4. PEG lipid. This helps particles behave better in circulation and can reduce unwanted sticking and rapid clearance. This is the diplomatic passport. Together, these components assemble into a delivery vehicle that is less like a simple pill and more like a highly optimized tactical container. Not alive, not conscious, but brilliantly engineered for the physics and biology of transport. Now comes the bigger implication. This matters far beyond vaccines. Act 7. Why this matters beyond vaccines. Most people think LNPs equals vaccines, but vaccines are only one chapter. The bigger story is that LNPs and related nanoparticle systems may help deliver gene silencing therapies, gene editing components, cancer therapeutics, protein replacement instructions, and other next-generation medicines. Meaning the true revolution isn't one product, it's a delivery platform. And platform technologies are dangerous in the best possible way, because once a platform works, it multiplies the menu of what is possible. The first airplane wasn't important only because it flew. It mattered because it proved a category. The first successful LNP medicines proved a category too. They told science, this route is open. And once a route is open, industries pivot, markets form, patents explode, and 1,000 researchers suddenly become poets with funding. But we're not going to romanticize this without reality checks, because the body is not a friendly place for your tiny courier. Act 8. The limits, the problems, the reality check. Nanoparticles are powerful, but they are not magic in the fairy tale sense. Targeting is often imperfect and probabilistic. Biological barriers remain significant. Delivery efficiency can vary by tissue, cargo, route of administration, and formulation design. So no, this is not we can send any drug anywhere with 0 side effects. The body is not a clean highway map. It's a hostile continent full of checkpoints, enzymes, immune surveillance, variable blood flow, and cells that absolutely did not consent to your engineering ambitions. Researchers still contend with stability challenges, immune reactions, manufacturing complexity, tissue selectivity, storage constraints, and toxicity trade-offs tied to formulation choices. For example, stability issues contributed to demanding storage conditions, especially during early COVID vaccine deployment.
So the honest story isn't we solved delivery. The honest story is we solved enough of it to unlock a new era, and now the engineering race gets harder. And that's real progress, not one grand final victory, just doors opening into more difficult rooms. Science is a mansion of harder basements. Now, here's the deeper takeaway. Act 9, the philosophical lesson. In medicine, as in life, precision beats force. The old model was often brute strength, more drug, more exposure, more collateral damage. The new aspiration is intelligent specificity. Right cargo, right packaging, right tissue, right timing. That's not just a technical shift, that's a worldview shift. Humanity has spent centuries trying to solve complex problems by increasing power. But mature systems don't just get stronger, they get more selective. The future belongs less to those who can hit hardest and more to those who can aim best. That's true in medicine, it's also true in war, in business, in leadership. Anyone can shout. Masters deliver the exact word to the exact wound. Nanomedicine is in a strange way the biological version of wisdom. Less chaos, more accuracy, less splash damage, more intention. Now, here's the deeper takeaway. Act 10, the story in one image. Closing. If you remember nothing else, remember this. A strand of mRNA or siRNA is like a message, but a message without a messenger is trapped potential. Lipid nanoparticles became some of the most important messengers in modern medicine. They helped carry gene silencing therapy into approved treatment. They helped carry mRNA into cells in widely used vaccines. And they helped prove that the future of therapy may not just depend on discovering the right molecules, but mastering the art of getting them to the right place. That is the deeper miracle. Not that we made a drug, but that we taught it how to arrive. So the next time you hear the word nanoparticle, don't picture sci-fi glitter. Picture a centuries-old medical dream finally learning to walk. From Paul Ehrlich's magic bullet idea, to liposomal nanodrugs, to LNP-enabled RNA medicines, the arc is clear. Medicine keeps moving from blunt force toward precision. And if this trajectory continues, the future of medicine may not just be about what we can invent, but what we can deliver. Because in the end, the molecule may be brilliant, but the courier changes history. If you want more stories where science, power, history, and the future collide, subscribe. Because on this channel, we don't just talk about technology, we chase the invisible systems underneath the world. And sometimes, the smallest things in existence turn out to be carrying the biggest revolutions.